Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to my podcast where we talk flowers, floral arranging, gardening, and more. I'm Tiffany Rutkowski, and my husband and I are the owners of Creative Designs by Tiffany, a floral shop and micro event space. To find out more and stay up to date, visit our website at cdbytiffany.wordpress.com and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm passionate about all things beautiful, mainly flowers, and teaching you how to savor all the things of it. You'll hear tips, tricks, and from some of my highly esteemed friends in the business. Today I'm joined by Dave Warner, producer of Tiffany Talk.
Hello.
Hello.
And the studio looks a little different.
I know,
today,
it does.
Doesn't it?
It does. It's nice. It's comfortable, right? It's the echo. It's like it's a church.
Well,
it's smaller in here. I feel like it could spread out, even though you can't.
Okay,
You know,
right.
so that's
You dragged me out the dollar
Yeah,
and
I know.
I have no buttons.
It's good. I know.
Confused.
Isn't that nice? It's very nice.
No, stop.
I'm like, I wonder if anybody's actually listening to us. That's what I wonder now. If anybody's actually following through.
We're not live.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
We could have done that, but that would have been.
Live is a lot.
You're going to do an outside segment, so that would have been tough. That's a lot to carry.
Yes, it is. And then we have tractor trailers that go by all the time, and we have, let's see, I'm thinking the ambulances and the fire department.
And the rain.
Yes, and the rain's coming. So it would have been a lot rougher.
Would have been a lot.
Yes, it would have been. But yeah, I was going to mention that you are now the producer of how many podcasts? And a host of a podcast now, too.
Several, yes.
That's exciting.
Started one for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
We've got another one getting ready to start that I'm not going to talk about yet.
Okay, awesome.
And then trying to do one, there were a lot of stories in Little Falls.
Yeah, that's
that
great.
are coming up, and interesting stories. And
That's
sometimes they lend themselves to, just the written word.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to do some video or a podcast, or you want to go live or whatever.
That's awesome.
So I think people are going to see a lot more of the live shows. We've been doing Scott Kinville's show, and we've been doing it live for quite a while, actually.
That's awesome.
But not on the My Little Falls Facebook
Okay.
page. So I added that in the show tomorrow.
How exciting.
Which will be today when we air this. So the same day,
Awesome.
tonight,
Awesome.
we'll say tonight, we'll be live.
Awesome.
So in a lot of different locations.
He's flawless, though. Scott's flawless when he does his podcast. I listen to him, and I'm like, someday I'll get there. After 78 episodes, how many has he done?
You do a good job. He's
Okay.
done, this will be episode 77 tonight.
Okay.
So, but then he did a few that were, he was doing kind of the fantasy stuff. So,
Okay. Yeah, I call him like the godfather of the podcast of My Little Falls, because he's like the best, and
I
he
did
does good.
150.
Well, yeah,
Before that, yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard your podcast. I'll have to do that some other time and listen to your podcast.
I have some of the old archived ones from about 12 years ago. I thought I had saved every single one of those 150, but as I go looking through them, like, well, where's this number? Where's that number? But I've got a few of them. So.
And that was before podcasts were podcasts.
It was they were podcasts then, but it was not a lot of people listened. And it was really difficult to do, especially since I was living out at Spruce Lake. Had Wild Blue Satellite, Is
that technically Dollarville? Or not? Spruce Lake? Is it Little Falls,
Dollarville? It's a weird spot. It's Salisbury.
Okay.
But it's got a Little Falls address.
Okay. All right. So closer. You're closer to here.
Well, you could go into the golf course and say, hey, I got a Little Falls address. I want the Little Falls
cool.
membership
That's good.
rate.
That's very good.
Where's Fish and Game Road?
Yeah.
That's not in Little Falls.
You're kind of in no man's land. That happens a lot out here. There's a little crossover and stuff, but that's cool. So I'm glad you got to come back to Dollarville area then today. So what I wanted to do is, now it's May, so it is the middle of May, which is pretty much for the Valley and Point South. You guys can start, gardening. I can't yet.
Did you see the forecast for a couple days?
Even today I was concerned out there. So here's a tip for you: if you have your plants in and then you see it's going to start freezing, we have coffee cans that I use and I collect over the course of the year, because my husband drinks a ton of coffee, and I put the coffee cans over the little seedlings so that it protects them from any frost. If you have a smaller area, you can maybe put a tarp over it, any plastic, or just go outside and, like my dad does, go out at 5 o'clock in the morning before the frost hits and starts watering everything so it can't get frosted. So that's commitment.
Is it the frost itself that causes the problem, or is it the temperature?
I think it's partly both. I would say it's more the frost, because that's when you can have sometimes a temperature that's like 32 and it won't actually hurt your plants. It's when that kind of dew gets on there. It kind of messes them up, and the leaves, they kind of shrivel and die from it. So I would say it's more the frost itself than the temperature. But keep an eye on it. I did look at our temperatures down here in Dollarville. Should be okay, for the stuff I just planted. But I only planted a couple of things that we're going to do today, so I think it'll be all right. So
I think it was like the lowest 39 coming up. So.
I hope so. So that's all right.
Yeah,
32 usually is the rough one, and once they're established plants too, they're usually okay when they're a little bit more tender, which some of these here that I have, that's kind of, we want to be a little more careful. So, well, today for planting, so this is just how I do it. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and you told me you planted this weekend.
I did. I worked this weekend on putting in some shrubs and things. I had my patio extended, so.
Yes. Did you see Travis's post about taking out his shrubbery?
I saw that, and no, I didn't volunteer.
You didn't volunteer for that? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I said something like you could just go grab a shovel and start digging. So there's that way to do it.
But there was somebody who said, mature shrubs,
they do. They root
maybe a way to save those.
Yep. So. They root right in, and so obviously they're perennial, so they can come back, and sometimes they just need a little bit more nutrients or whatever the case is, more sun, all of that. So sometimes they do come back, and sometimes they don't. Yeah. So anyway, so what I do, like I said, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. So you can see probably, I put it right in front of my face, there's just my little layout here. And this is literally,
for outside and front.
This is for outside. Okay. This is 3 different gardens that I have because I was trying to get together my list to go to Gray's Greenhouse. I like Gray's Greenhouse, so if you're in the area, they're in Oppenheim, technically, I think. So Route 29.
Down on 29.
Yes, yep. They're great, and I get all of my flowers and things there, and anything from my garden. She's fantastic. She's been expanding. I think now they have 6 greenhouses, where they only started out with like 2 or 3, I think, originally. So anyway, I know what she has, so I know when I'm going there that's what I'm going to be able to get. So I can kind of make a plan off of that, and then she has extra stuff that's kind of like fun stuff that I could just pick out and buy. So today I kind of.
Where?
Yes, exactly. Where do you put it? So that's, I'll show you this again. So this actually right here is that grid. There's 6 boxes out in front. That's for here. This is my garden at home. I haven't started to lay it out yet. This is what I know I want to kind of put in it, so I put a little list down here. And then this over here is actually a sign that I do for one of the towns. So I try and figure out what I'm actually going to put in here. I put town sign with it, and then this is my little area that I do my herbs. So if you have a piece of paper, you can do this, and you don't have to have graph paper. If you're really good at it, you can do graph paper and figure it out right by the foot. I'm a little more spontaneous and a little more whimsical in my arranging. Everything that I do, I just throw stuff in and hope for the best. So,
but this is not a bad idea because even this weekend, when you just go to the greenhouse and you're walking around,
it is so overwhelming.
I had a list, but not kind of like this with drawings and whatever. And I was like, okay, what do I need again? And I'm looking at the piece of paper and like a fool, and looking at stuff. And then you mark something down. Oh, I want this, and then you can't find it, and then
And then the full sun, that's another thing. I know from her stuff what she has that's going to be great for full sun. I know stuff that she has that's not going to be good for, like right here we have, I found out after 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, that sun kind of comes over the building, so there's a lot of shade. So it's different than putting geraniums in there because they're not going to go as well if I put, like the new Guinea Impatiens instead.
Right.
So, so how I lay it out is I try and put things where they're going to go, and then you'll see when we go outside that I try and keep stuff. If I don't have space for it, I set it to the side, and then either I'll till up a patch later, or I can use one of my remaining boxes. That's always a good idea, that if you have, say 6 boxes like I do, start out with your 5, make a plan for it, and then that 6th box, you can put all your extras in there. So,
I mean, the plan you've made for outside that we're going to go and do, is that so that you can bring those flowers in, harvest them, and or it's just for joy?
So it's just for joy out there.
Right.
So I've told everyone, because they see as we're working out there, and it's been kind of a longer process than I thought, but we did the raised beds. I have stone coming in, which you wouldn't believe how hard it is to find white stone in upstate New York. But I had this idea of like a sandy kind of color, and everything is gray. So I have been going all over the place.
There's a lot of gray stone in
It's
upstate.
a lot of gray stone in upstate, and I was like, I really want that crisp white, so we're working on it. But
they probably sell it in little bags that cost like $1,000.
They do at Lowe's, and I went to Lowe's and they said, well, we have this, and it was like $5, and it did like a 1/4 square foot. Don't ask me how these square foot with the square foot. Yes, so it was like this much space is what they were telling me, and I said, well, I have a 20 by 20 and then a little round. That's not going to work. So, so we ended up. I actually went to Greenscapes. They called me and said, I have just a few, and I think it was crushed marble they call it. Okay. So we're going to incorporate that somehow, but the main base, I think we're going to end up getting river stones. So either way, there'll be stone around the boxes, and so I had this vision because there was a girl in, I believe she's in where's that, Florida, I think. And then she did a couple of installs in Tennessee, and I've seen it with the stone around. So just something different, because I'm more of a store than like a home garden. I thought it might be a little bit cleaner than having dirt and all the mud tracking in when people go out.
You're going to make a
you can
path
walk
between all
around,
your flower
yes.
beds.
Yep,
Okay,
you can walk
all right.
around, and there'll be seating out in the center of it. So for our events too, I've told them there's a little chimenea, so if you're talented enough, you can have a little s'more bar out there too. So
nice.
there's a few options, because everybody wants to be outside when we can in upstate New York. So back to the actual layout of it. So yes, not a cut flower garden. There are flowers that are called cut flowers. So like a geranium isn't considered a cut flower. That's going to be something you see in a hanging basket. Calibracheia or million bells, those are going to be something in a hanging basket. Impatience, those are in a hanging basket as well. But something, let's quiz you. What's a good cut flower?
To put in a flower?
In a flower bed. What would be?
Gladiolas?
Okay, that's a good one. And any other ones?
Lilies? Will lilies work?
Lilies work, sunflowers.
Sunflowers, yeah.
You know, everybody has these cut flower gardens, and now they've been coming out too with little layouts, like in Better Homes and Gardens, that they'll give you tips of which
You're
are
killing me
good.
when you test me, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought for sure the first thing you'd say would be sunflowers, because everybody does sunflowers for cut flowers.
I don't.
You don't? I don't
Not at
either.
all.
I don't either.
No,
Sunflowers.
I was talking about this weekend. I would love to have some gladiolas.
Yep.
I planted some lily bulbs, summer lilies.
Okay, yep.
And put them in, so 12 of them.
Yes, and do you know that gladiolas are a bulb when they come to you? So they're not so they're not an actual seed. So,
no, I knew that.
So they're a little bit different, and you can pull them up and redo the corms. I've never had any luck with it, but anybody who's a flower gardener probably would be able to help you with that, because I'm not a flower gardener. I just do the cut flowers.
Okay.
I've stressed that very much. I'm good with herbs though. I love basil. Basil's my favorite.
I do like that.
So yeah, so we have that, and I'm going to do a little bit of a mix, as you can see here. So I have 6 different boxes. For me, I kind of know how it's going to lay out, because I've done it a few times before. If you're just starting out, I'd start with 5 out of the 6, leave that last one, and then you can play around with it. Go back to the greenhouse, get something you like, and just see and throw it in there. But there's really no wrong way to do it when you're doing raised beds. And if you're not afraid to get dirty, you can go out there. If you screw up, go ahead and put something else in. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun and pretty therapeutic. We'll actually go out too and do the therapeutic part of taking off all of the dead little flowers off of a hanging basket too.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yes, it is. Well, when you come home after work, you want to sit on your porch and just do something busy work. It's great.
I still want to do that.
No,
I want
okay.
to come and sit and relax on my porch. I don't want to be deadheading.
We should take a survey of how many people would actually do that, and I bet 50% of the listeners would be like, "Oh, that's very
like
therapeutic."
asking them if they floss their teeth every day.
Yes, it is. It is. It's one of those things. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. So anyway, so that's kind of what we'll be doing outside. But before we go out, so here's my little crash course of what you need for painting. My husband always says your paint job is as good as your prep work. And I don't paint. I'm not a good painter.
Your husband is correct.
Yes, and so this is kind of the prep work. So if you can see here, we started out with little seedlings here. And these are some seedlings that aren't going to be ready yet. You can see the little fruit fly flying around. So hey, it's good, right? Because it means they're alive and they want something off of it.
It means the fruit fly's alive.
Well, yeah, that's the plants are kind of alive. So we started these out, and you can see some of them are like chives. I started on 426, which was only a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And so the chives one I have right here. So chives are obviously kind of like an onion. They are a perennial. They will come back. So once you plant them in the ground, they're good. But there's some random stuff in there. I think I have zinnias in this bunch, and
I have
see
a question that you won't have an answer to.
Oh dear. Okay.
Okay. So annual and perennial. Okay, annually to me means every year, and it doesn't in the flower business.
Yes.
And it drives me absolutely crazy.
Who came up with that? I have no idea.
Did the reverse of what it should be.
Someone who wants to make you think. Someone who came up with the new math. I bet you that's who it was.
Okay.
So we'll go that way.
That person is no longer
yes,
around either.
yes. So that's what
This
I'm
person
figuring.
we can't find on the flowers.
Yes, I think it must have been like, I don't know, if I had to guess, someone that really wanted to make people think when they're gardening. Or there probably is a very
You've
logical.
not heard anything about
I
that.
have no
I've always
idea.
wondered about that, because you get in there and you're reading and you're like, okay, let me reverse what I really think this is going to do.
Yep, it's true. Well, like the chives, as I think I did this a few podcasts ago or last year. So it tells you right here, it says perennial on it.
Yep.
And so the chives seed, and you won't be able to see this, probably.
Well, chive seeds are really small anyway.
They're very, very small.
They're little.
So there's a bunch of them there.
Oh, yeah.
And then if
Little
we hold
guys.
it up,
They
they're
look like
little
little
microscopes. Exactly. They're microscopic. So if you wanted to, you could put them right in the ground, and then they would kind of bush up, kind of like a cat grass
Do
would.
you cover them at all? Or?
You barely cover them. So on this one, I like this because it tells you when you can start them inside, how much you want to, how deep you want to have them go. So like for this one, it says seed depth 1/4 inch, which is barely anything.
Nothing, yeah,
so
just like a little.
yes, and there are some too that you literally just put it right on top of the soil, put a little bit of soil on top, and they'll take off. So it's pretty amazing how everything starts from seed. That's something I can't, like a corn seed, they're larger and they're a kernel of corn, so you can see it going. But things like this are pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
See if I can get them back in here. So this is,
yeah,
I know. That's all right. We'll have onions here on this table, maybe if it takes off. So those are the seeds and then the seedlings. And then as far as prep work, when you're ready to go outside, very easy crash course. Now, did you use gloves when you went outside and you gardened?
I don't use gloves.
I don't like to use them.
Now, you get ridiculously dirty.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
make
that's
sure,
you.
Let's
Yes.
make sure I'm clean from the weekend. But you get ridiculously dirty. But you can feel the soil, and it's just a better experience.
Yep. Therapeutic. That's my word for this.
I don't know
It's a
about that, but
therapeutic
all
thing.
right, yeah.
But you're actually like touching the soil, and you can feel it. Your hands do get kind of dry after you use it.
Yeah.
That's why they call it like gardening hands. O'Keefe's working hands, and the kind of same kind of thing. But my gloves, as you can see, and this tablecloth has to get
dirty.
washed. They're very dirty. But this saves me. I've been trying to garden outside, but then I try and come back inside, and I try to wear the gloves as much as I can when I have to work here. But any other time, I won't wear them because I just don't want to. Then you have your little.
When you're putting floral arrangements together.
No. So what happens is I get distracted and I want to go outside because I love being outside and I want to work in the garden, but then someone calls and says, oh, I need an arrangement. Well, I don't want to have dirt in the arranged cut flowers. So it tries to protect it. Sometimes I get messed up, but kids love playing in the dirt, and it's one of those things. Everybody loves playing in the dirt.
Yeah.
So then I've got my handy little tool here. So this is like a little spade shovel. So this one's cool.
I searched the entire basement.
Did you?
Could not find it anywhere.
So there's the big ones. There's the big ones. You can use that too, but if you're doing little plants, you can't use it because it'll just dig too deep down, and then you're going to see.
Well, for the bulbs, it was a little bit overkill.
Yeah, a little too much. This one's cool because it has the depth too, the seed depth. So like this is an inch, 2, 4. So this is kind of cool, and I like this brand Fiskars. It's very reliable, as you can see that. I've had some that I'm digging out like the sod, and it'll break in half. This is a very nice one, and I kind of recommend that one. Then the best part is my sun hat. So this is my gardening hat that I love, and everybody has to have a gardening hat. So once you get into gardening,
what is it, Blue Jay?
So this is the Blue Jays. So actually, we bought this at the Blue Jays game.
On it.
It's
in Canada.
I guess so. No, actually, it was in Florida at their training facility in Dunedin. So we got that down there. But I love these little sun hats, and once you're a gardener or you want to start gardening, I highly recommend getting a gardening hat because it's the best part of the gardening.
I didn't know we were going to do hats, but I have a better hat.
Do you? Is it a bucket hat? Does it have the little?
It's a Stetson.
It is.
All right?
Oh, how
and it's
cool!
a gardening hat, but it's got something about the design.
Yep.
Keeps bugs away.
That's
and
it.
They also have some. They've got a chemical in there.
Yep.
That probably lasts a couple of years or whatever.
Yep.
And I even used it when I was out at Spruce Lake. The black flies.
That's what you have to do.
Kind of stayed away for a while, but then when they got to the real aggressive state, you had to have the net on.
Yes, exactly. But that's the thing down here. We don't really have to have the net, but where I live, definitely need a net because that's when you're planting and it's kind of black fly season. But with the gardening hats too, you can use whatever kind of hat you want. I just like using hats. But
I like ball caps.
Yes,
but the other one, the bugs are around.
Right, and I like these things too because then if you do get hot or it does get really windy, you can tie this down and you won't lose your hat. So
I get that too.
You'll see that at Tractor Supply and all of the gardening places. That's one of the things you'll see.
You told me we were doing a hat.
I know. I should have told you to bring up your hat for this gardening segment. So I guess now we'll head outside and we'll start gardening.
All right, that sounds cool.
All right,
let's go.
All right, so now we're outside and we are doing the gardening part. As you can see my gloves, you can choose to use gloves or not use gloves. I don't really like to use gloves, so I'm pitching them. This is when I have to come outside and then go inside and make an arrangement. I try not to get my hands dirty. But as you can see, this is our bed. So we had some topsoil brought in. So the topsoil, as you can see, very dry on the top because it hasn't been watered. If we rake it a little bit, you'll see as it starts to get a little bit more moisture because it's a huge mass. So what I'll do today is I'll just move a couple of these pieces around where we're going to be planting. The first thing we're going to plant is right here is this ivy. So this is a perennial. This takes off. It looks really nice in the corner piece. You can put it in your garden and it'll just take off, go up your house. For this, I'm just going to put it here for this year so that it has a little bit of a filler, so there's something that people see when they come in. So how I do it is I take this ivy out of here. Well, actually first, I'll dip it in the bucket because needs a little bit of water. Remember, it's going into this dry spot, and we'll use Mother Nature today because it's supposed to rain later, so I won't have to come out and water it as much. So I put it in the bucket like so. Then I pull out the whole root ball. This is a common misconception that your roots, you want your root ball to be huge. And you'll see that here. So, see that root ball? That's amazing. That's what you want because it's gonna have to take off in here. So now, I'm gonna get my little shovel. And because this is kind of already set where I had it, I'm just gonna push it back a little bit. Sorry, Dave, if I get you a little bit of dirt.
Not a problem.
Okay. We're gonna keep going here. And I love this topsoil. Use Miracle Grow, anything like that. It's not gonna have, this topsoil has a couple of these little pieces, but it's not gonna have all the rocks and you're not gonna have to break through sod. So it's easier when you're gardening. Like I said, this one I'm probably going to take out next year because it is a perennial, but for this year, we'll put it in. So sometimes the root ball has to be 2 times bigger than what your hole is. For this, it's fine because as you can see, it's pretty compact here. It'll keep going. Some of these you want to be careful, like hydrangeas, you want to give it a nice big space to grow out. These will be all right. Now to get the roots kind of adjusted, I just kind of slop the roots so that they start breaking apart a little bit. You don't have to do that. It's just something that I like to do. And you can see they're kind of getting ready to take off into that ground. So all I do here, this is a very easy one, as you can see. Very simple. Push it right back in here. And then make sure all your leaves, see how that kind of has a gap there? We're going to want to put that there, like that. All the way around. Beautiful. Okay. So now, even though it is supposed to rain later, I'm just going to give it a little drink to adjust it in. Right around. If it wasn't going to rain, you need to water it pretty much every day. Today I'm hoping it'll take off with some of this rain, and then tomorrow I'll just have to come out and keep maintaining it for watering. Just like a hanging basket. So for the ivy, the idea is that it's going to kind of grow around this box and just be kind of a big ball there. The same thing in the one in the back there. Now, I have nasturtium here, I have a grass, and then I have one of these new Guinea Impatiens. These are pretty common. They're going to be in like hanging baskets. They like a lot of shade. This area that I'm standing in now gets a lot of afternoon shade, so it's perfect for it. So we're going to do the same thing with this little guy now. Now for spacing, some people want to put it like this. This is going to grow out. You want to be able to move it over here and then kind of see what your other plants are. I like cosmos. These are really tall and wavy. So I kind of like to plan it out where I want them to go. And you very carefully take it out like this, and you'll see the root ball. So for spacing, I like to look and see, like we saw inside, where I'm placing everything. And if there's not enough room, don't squeeze it in. So we'll do something like that right now. These are great too. They don't have to be very deep into the soil. And these kind of go, if you clip them off, they'll go all summer long. So even for this, very simply, you can put this around. Give it a little drink. I like to do it twice because what'll happen is it'll kind of die off of the sides of it because it's so dry. If you plant it like that, should get right down into those roots. Again, we're waiting on the rain for later. So we'll do these 3 here. And cosmos are probably my favorite flower. They're whimsical, pastel colors. Can't ask for more. Okay, so will follow me around. How's that? Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with the Impatience. So as you saw with the Cosmos, I didn't go too deep down into the box. Those roots are going to be able to stay kind of on the surface. They'll be all right. The Impatience, as you can see, it's a longer container. So the roots are going to be a little bit longer. So we got to dig a little deeper, just like we did for the ivy. And these are 3x6 boxes, 8 inches deep. If you were going for carrots or celery or any root vegetables like potatoes, you would need at least a 16-inch box because it's got to go right down into the root system. The soil is very easy to work with. Okay, now this one has a tag. I think we talked about tags with the seeds before. So this one will tell you exactly what you need to do. Height, the light, pretty generic here. I like to stick them in here so I know exactly what I planted if I get confused on what kind of lighting it needs or what kind of water throughout the season. Same thing with this one. Give it a little drink around the roots. This one I'm not going to slough the roots off because you can see it's not as firm as it was on the ivy. So the root system, I don't want to damage these roots, where the ivy could take a little bit more. Push this right around. Super simple. Then we're going to do one more, looking around to see what I have. Let's see. We're going to do a vine. So I'm going to offset this with a vine, kind of similar to arranging. You'll have everything here, but you want it to look like something. So instead of it being a cluster of random pieces and heights, I like to try and think of it kind of like an arrangement. So I'm thinking my ivy's here. Do I want a lot of tall, spiky things? Do I want a lot of trailing things? This one's in the corner of the garden, so I want a little bit more trailing going around the boxes as you walk in. And I highly recommend using your hands and not using gloves if you don't have to. That's another way to do it too, to moisture. See these roots? And this was just watered from the greenhouse. I'm gonna put this right in here. Keep that tag out. This is a Vinca Vine. These are ones that you'll see most commonly in a hanging basket as well. This will start trailing. You can clip these off and it'll just keep going, which is great. So if it gets around here and people start tripping on it, I can trim it off. You can also use it in arrangements if you wanted like little fieldy type arrangements. Same thing with these Cosmos. There would be considered a cutting flower. These are not so much. These are more just for show. You wouldn't be able to cut these and put them into a vase. So we'll balance it off like that. And then let's do one more while we're out here. So let's see if we remember how to do these. Very surfacey. This one's a little dry. Give it a little drink. And very simple. So now I'm going to show you deadheading. These are not going to have to be deadheaded, but these are. Everybody has hanging baskets at home. Well, most everybody in upstate. So if you can see that on the top here, whoops, get this straight here. Okay, as you can see here, all these flowers are beautiful, but there's some that are starting to die off. This is called deadheading. Most people that are master gardeners know how to do this, but for those that haven't learned how to do this, we'll go over it now. So what I tell everybody, is you can see how this is kind of starting to pull off. You can pull it right off. They should fall right out into your hand. If I'm yanking it, it's not ready to come yet. So see how I'm pulling it? You could, push it if you wanted to, or just wait till the next day. It's very therapeutic to do. So we'll start pulling off any of the dead, and that goes for the greens and the dried pieces. I did one side of this, I tried to. This allows the plant to keep growing. If you don't deadhead, it actually can cause the plant not to grow as much. So over the summer, have little kids, need some therapy, you start pulling off your dead pieces. A lot of people don't like to do it though either. So there are different hanging baskets that you don't need to deadhead. You can ask your greenhouse and they'll be able to tell you. These are a deadheading one. Geraniums are deadheading. If you like a fern, those don't have to be deadheaded at all. So all you do for those is you just water them. But those are just straight green. And you don't have to get every piece every day, but it does good every couple of days that you want to come out and deadhead your plants, so they just keep going. On this back side, there's a lot of deadheading to do. I'll do that quick. And then I will show you how I water these. Different people have different systems how they water. I like to thoroughly water and let it drain right out so I know that it's got a good drink. If the roots, actually, can you see this? So this looks like it's kind of overwatered almost. And when you feel it, it feels wet. It's a little different than what we just did in the boxes. As you can tell, the soil is very dark. That means it has a good drink. So this should very quickly come out. So if you have your hanging basket, you hold it up or it's on its holder, you watch it, give it a little drink, a little shake, and that water will start draining out. And you'll see it come right from the bottom here. Especially in the summer, this is really important when they need a really good drink. Must need more water than I thought it did. My arm workout for the day. All right, I'm gonna give it the last of the water. Is it coming out of the bottom? Well, it's not working the way I thought it was going to. There it comes. It's my arm workout for the day. Oh my goodness. So if it's a hanging basket, it'll just hang there, drain out. That's how you know it had a good drink for the day. In the hot temperatures, it'll need that. Cooler temperatures, every couple days you could do this. But that'll prolong the life of your plant. I'm gonna set that down. Oh, got a good arm workout with that. So that's the basics of planting a garden. If we come back to this garden, we just look at it. It's a 3x6 little space. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plants in it. You don't want to overcrowd because that's going to make your garden not grow. And it sounds weird, but it really isn't going to make it grow because everything's going to be too spaced together and they need their roots to expand. So when starting out, have a little bit of a plan like we discussed at the beginning, so you can kind of see where everything's going to lay out and where you want it to go. When you get out here and you see you have a couple of extra plants, put them somewhere else. Don't squeeze them in. So that is our gardening portion for today. Well, we hope you enjoyed gardening outside. It was fun. We did a few pieces. I think there were 8 pieces that we did in that garden. So as you can see, it was a 3x6, I think I mentioned. So a 3x6 by 8 inches. So not a lot that had to go in there. So very simple. You can get a few 6-packs, they call them, not beer 6-packs.
So when you said 6-packs, I thought you were going to start drinking out there. I wasn't quite sure.
Well, there's 4-packs and 6-packs, and then there's the single ones. Like the Impatient was in a small one on its own.
Right.
So
you're talking about the the actual containers that hold them.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we call them the 6-packs, and basically like the little seedlings start out in little 6-packs like that. So it's the best bang for your buck if you don't want to spend too much. You can do the individual ones, and when they're single pots like that, they do tend to cost a little bit more. But if you get 2 or 3 6-packs and 3 raised beds, you're ready to go. So, and you have beauty all summer.
Would you put any like mulch or anything on top, or would you try and get decorative with, you've got like the red bark stuff and all of that.
So,
would you do anything like that?
So you could, and the stuff that I just did, I wouldn't do it personally. We have hydrangea plants that I just planted this year. Those I put mulch around, but you have to be very careful. So if this is your root ball here and you have your plant coming up, you want to keep your mulch about this far away from it. You don't want to have it on top of it because then that actually kills off the roots. So with flowers and don't mound it on top. Give it a little bit of space. So, and I can show you before you leave.
I didn't put the mulch in yet. But,
you don't want to put it right on top because it will kind of
keep it out.
Yeah, keep it out a little bit, because then you think too, when it gets the water, the natural water that we're, knock on wood, waiting for today, that it'll start raining. It'll allow it to get down to those roots as compared to kind of sloughing off.
But you think of, like I've seen a lot of places where they put the mulch right up to the edge to kind of keep the grass from growing up around, like azalea bushes or whatever else I've got in there. So don't do that,
Don't do that the first year. You can after the roots kind of get established, but even then, I still do a very light layer of mulch anytime I do it around the plants immediately. So you're trying to keep down your weeds, keep it away from the actual plant. Right on top of the plant, not the greatest.
Is that good for keeping moisture there?
Yeah, so it retains the moisture for it. The first year when they're, that's another trick too with the hydrangeas. So hydrangeas, everybody wants to cut them off the first year. That first year, let them get established, let them die off, and then come back next year, because otherwise you don't know if you're clipping new growth or not. So I learned that too from my friends at Greenscapes, that they said you wouldn't believe how many times people come back because they have warranty on their plants. They clip them at the end of the year, they don't come back the next year. So first year, they're pretty established. Let them kind of get used to the climate, our crazy climate in New York.
It's crazy.
Yes, and as far as the mulching, don't pack it on and mound it up on top of there. Give it a little bit of space and room to breathe so it can get used to its new environment. And then for mulching on actual beds like what I just did, I wouldn't. It's a lot of work, weeding. Maybe we'll come up in the middle of the summer and do some weeding, but
I'm not doing
weeding. I'll do a weeding show. Then like those dandelions. Dandelions tend to look like they're pretty little flowers, but they're actually weeds. So knowing the difference.
Got all these people passing stuff around on social media about how incredible they are. And we should eat like every inch of them.
My father-in-law actually eats dandelion greens in his salad, and I never thought that was a thing. And this was 8-10 years ago, and now it's like this huge thing.
Everybody's doing it?
Yeah, everybody's doing it now.
If I remember right, my wife's grandmother made distilled them or something. Made some dandelion, not wine, but I don't know what, moonshine probably.
Right. Well, we don't know what's happening now with this food shortage or whatever I've been hearing, or the price of gas. So now everybody's just eating what they can.
So we make our own alcohol.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
So the same thing with even when you're planting in your garden, plant vegetables or something that you like to eat. A lot of my friends that have little kids, they like to do the little cherry tomatoes because the kids just run by, pop them in their mouth like a little snack.
That's a cool thing. I actually got one of those, and I have dropped it now twice.
Oh, jeez.
I dropped it going up to the counter to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this will be okay.
Yeah.
I get it home, it looks like death.
Yeah.
I get it into a bigger pot because
you shocked it.
It really got shocked, and now it looks kind of like, oh my God.
Yep.
So,
well, you can always get another one. That's another thing too.
I thought about getting another one, but I want to save this.
Yeah, don't feel like you can't redo something. That's the beauty with gardening. Sometimes they might not have the same exact thing, but you can always change it. So if something isn't working for you or it's failing, so to speak, change it. Put a different herb in, put a different flower in, whatever you want to do. It's all experimenting and learning, and then you become a master gardener, and you can have it like Martha Stewart out there. So,
but I'm getting it looking nice. But there's some things that need to be moved that have been there for years and years and years. I'm worried about that. There's a lilac bush that is tucked so far back into this flower bed that there's a walnut tree, which they come out really late. It's just now starting to bud, but it creates so much shade there that you end up getting like a mold on the leaves of the lilac. And I want that thing out, but I'm afraid to move it. Of course, it's flowering right now. But
wait till after it's done flowering. Same thing with any of your trimming, like those perennial bushes and stuff. Don't actually prune it until it's basically almost dead. Not really dead, but it's at the end of their season. If you do it in the middle.
In the fall, like
Yeah, or midsummer even you could do it, because lilac bushes kind of tend to die out after, about
they just have some
June.
green leaves
Yeah,
on them,
yeah.
whatever,
So
yeah.
you could clip it then safely, but don't do it when they're actually flowering.
Okay,
So
well, I'm into the lilacs. I've got
yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lilacs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I thought about putting lilacs out here because we have the Violet Festival, and it would flower at the same
That
time.
would look
so,
cool. The
yeah.
purple ones, of course.
The purple ones.
Or white.
Yeah,
It's
either
purple
way.
and white.
Purple and white you could do out there and stuff, but it's fun because you get to pick out what your perennials are going to be out there. Perennials, not annuals. Your perennials out there.
Perennials being the ones that come back
Yes,
every year.
yes. So I have the forsythia bush out there in the corner, and I said, well, I don't know what
Those
else
are
to
cool
do.
looking.
Those are very cool, and those can take off and
Yeah.
overbearing after a while. Hostas, I love hostas too. Got a few of those started.
Hostas are hardy as
Yes,
heck.
they are. They're very
The
hardy.
forsythia, though, kind of, doesn't that signal spring to you? That's like
It
one
does.
of the first things
It
to come
does,
out?
because the yellows and stuff, and then the greens over the summer. I love the greens just in general,
green
even
is
though it's
pretty on
not
them, yeah.
yellow. So I love those, and then hydrangeas are a couple of my favorites. A little pricier, but if you take care of them and you keep them water, hydrangea, right? You know that? That's totally what it is. Well, that's what I tell everybody when they come in. I'm like, hydrangea.
buying
That's
that.
it. That's it. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
Google it, ask
Google
Alexa.
it. Yeah.
We'll see. But that's one of the things I always remember, hydrangea. So we keep it nice and hydrated, and that's for a cut flower or the bushes too. And then there's certain ones too that you can dry. Those don't need any water, of course.
Okay.
But that's basically it. So I hope today was interesting for some people and got to see what was going on out there. And then you got to come up to the store, which is, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the backdrop of the nice store that we moved into, and come up and have a cup of tea sometime. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do sun tea. Do you know what sun tea is?
Oh, yeah.
Too?
Oh,
So we have the
girl,
tea
in the
room, and
South,
I know
we
a
know
lot
sun tea,
of people
girl,
don't
come
know
on.
what sun tea is.
Y'all
So
don't know what
the
that is
sun
up here,
tea, yeah,
damn
that's
Yankees.
it. That's it. So I said we'll have the sun tea and the hot tea now. So you can come
All
up
right.
and you can sit in the garden once that takes off too, and probably in a couple weeks. I think
Yeah.
definitely by Violet Festival we want to have the garden obviously done so that people can see it. So
Yeah, the Garden Festival is what, the second weekend of June?
yes, it is I think it's the 9th, 10th, 11th. Don't quote me on that. It's the second weekend.
No, it's second weekend of June starting on Friday.
Yep, exactly. And they've got quite a few things going on this year too, and
They do.
everybody's going purple. Everything's purple. They're doing a flower show too over at the old
The Lions.
mill, whatever it
Oh,
is.
they're doing it at the mill?
Yes,
the
they're
Daniel
doing
Green
it.
Mill?
Yes, they're doing it there. They're opening it up, and then they're doing the art show over there this year too.
Okay.
So,
Well, they've done it before in the
Masonic
Masonic temple,
Yes,
yeah.
yep. And this year they moved it over there, so everybody's excited about that because no one's seen the inside yet. So,
I did Wednesday.
did you? And you got to be nosy in there and see how cool it looks.
I acted lost, walked around a lot of
that's good.
floors.
That's
and,
good.
Mr.
That's-
Grace has done a great job over
Yes,
there.
yes, and I've heard they have great bathrooms. Is what
Oh, really?
They put in
I
some
didn't check the
really nice
bathrooms out,
bathrooms.
not my first
Hey,
thing.
that's a woman thing.
I was trying to find where everybody was.
Yes,
while I was doing it.
yeah. It's beautiful and stuff. So I'm hoping Dodgeville kind of comes up and gets a nice thing going and stuff. And
Well, I think they had a brownfield report was
Yes.
the reason, and
Yep.
that's pretty interesting, and a lot of people are really looking at what's going on here and what could be.
Yes,
There were some
exactly.
interesting ideas
Yeah,
in there.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time and stuff. And like I said, all else fails, do a garden no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Dollarville, Little Falls,
Yeah,
anywhere in
we
the
can do
valley.
that.
Yes. So, well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast and conversation. This is when the music starts playing, right? So
Yeah, this is it.
see, we're on remote, so you don't hear the music.
You don't hear
Remember,
But it's going. I can
right,
tell you right
exactly.
now.
Perfect. So remember to connect with us, and we'll talk to you next time. You can find us the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. on My Little Falls Radio and wherever you get your favorite podcast.